Have you heard? Metro by T-Mobile now includes Amazon Prime. Yes, enjoy the best of shopping and entertainment, movies, TV shows, music, free shipping, and much more. All included for just $40 per line for 3 lines. All on the T-Mobile network. Discover the smarter way. Metro by T-Mobile. That's genius. One offer per account. Offer subject to change. $12.99 per month value. Offer valid for new Amazon Prime members. Metro customers may notice reduced speeds versus some T-Mobile customers. Video at 480p. Capable device required. See store for details and terms and conditions.
And this is our plan of attack.
Banks have become an essential threat to our democracy. So consider this justice.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. Please help support this station so this battle can continue forward. Revolution Radio! Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Do you feel as if you don't belong? Do you know you were meant for something more? Well, you were. Knowledge of who you are and where you really are from is within your reach. Join Janet Carol Lesson and Dr. Sasha Lesson as they search for the answers as they open up the Stargate to the cosmos. There we go. Finally live.
Okay. Aloha, everyone. We're having a rough start up tonight, but we are here. I am your host, Janet Carol Lesson. My co-host is Dr. Sasha Alex Lesson. This is an episode of Stargate to the Cosmos on Revolution Radio. Our producer is Thomas Becker, also known as a Mad Painter. And on the first hour, we're going to have Kendra Jonas. And let me find my page. Tell you a little bit about Kendra. She's an author, website developer, business coach, organized artist, public speaker, channeler, and she began to have interest in higher consciousness, which started with her first visit in the Greys on October 24th, 1991. And since that time, Kendra has had countless experiences with the Greys and participated in the Hybrid Starseed program, which resulted in the arrival of many Starseed children who are here today. And Kendra's had numerous UFO sightings, out-of-body experiences, and a couple near-death experiences. all which have contributed to the enhancement of her clairaudient and clairvoyant abilities. She's had face-to-face dealings with reptilians, higher dimensional light beings, and beings from various star systems. And so Kendra was recently at the Stargate to the Cosmos Expo in October in Albuquerque, New Mexico, with all of us crazy people who were there, creating channels and portals to the new Stargate to the Cosmos. So Dr. Lesson, are you there? Before we bring on Kendra, I want to do a sound check. You there, honey? Hello, Dr. Lesson. All right. Don't know what happened to him. Kendra, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi, Janet.
Hi. I'm going to have you tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm going to go on mute, and walk in and see if I can help Sasha get on. But tell us a little bit about who you are, how you got started. You were talking about your October 24th, 1991 visits from the Greys. And just tell a little bit about yourself, and I'll see what I can do about getting Sasha on. Take it away, Kendra.
You bet. Yeah, well, I'm just really an ordinary person who happened to have some extraordinary experiences that started when I was 22 years old. So that was like my initiation into paranormal or ET activity, was that it basically found me. It wasn't like I was pursuing anything like this. I wasn't even a Star Trek fan or a science fiction fan or, anything like that. I was a girl going to college, and I was, trying to do the good thing and go to school and get a degree. And I was working also and paying my own way. So I was really busy, and I just didn't have time for something like this. But it just all started where I was woken up in the night, and this one being just walked up alongside the bed. And what I noticed initially was that I couldn't move, that I was paralyzed. And I'd never had sleep paralysis before or anything like that before. I could only move my eyes. And he just walked up to the side of the bed and actually walked kind of quickly. He was like, he moved differently than we do. He kind of flitted around and was very quick and said, "This will only take a moment. We just need a sample from you." And he said, "We." And yet he was the only being that was in the room. And I thought that was weird. He was also very little. He was like 3.5 feet tall, about the size of a 3 or 4-year-old child. And so I didn't feel threatened like an invader was in the bedroom because of the size. It was just a very strange experience to see somebody that was talking to me telepathically who was that short. So, this was in 1991. So this was a long time ago. This was before the internet. This was before Ancient Aliens was on television. There was not a lot of information out there at all, nor were there resources to find information about what was going on. So I didn't know. I just thought that I was having this strange dream that I dreamed that some being came in the room and needed a sample from me. And except what he did was he took out this little instrument and he took like 3 scrapes right below my eye and put it in this little device or vial thing. And then he turned around and walked right through the walls in my room. And he also told me before he left that it wouldn't leave a scar any bigger than one of my chickenpox scars. And I thought that was weird that he knew that I had chickenpox. And so I immediately went into cognitive dissonance. I didn't have a basis in my reality at that time for what had occurred. So even though it hurt, even though it was the weirdest thing that had ever happened to me, and it was not like any dream I'd ever had, I just thought it was, and I told myself to go back to sleep. And so I did that. But then the next morning when I got up to take a shower, I looked in the mirror and there was this big red lump where it had been all swollen where he had taken the skin sample. And then there was this fresh scoop right under this lump. And so that was when everything sort of came tumbling down, because I knew that there was a real validity to this, that what happened wasn't my imagination or a dream or anything like that. But still, in spite of all that, you still try to put it out of your mind because, again, I had no reference to really be able to integrate it at that time. So, but what happened was it wasn't just the first occurrence and then, you go through it and you either forget about it or you decided to dive into it. What happened was they kept coming. So the visits became so frequent that sometimes it was twice a week. And it was really hard when I was studying, going to college, to have, all of this stuff happen because I had tests the next day, or I just really wanted to have a normal life, but I felt like it was taking that feeling of normalcy away from me. So it started to lead to PTSD. It started to cause a lot of anxiety for me. So I went through a lot of difficulties with that. I would try to research, this stuff at the library at the university, and there was nothing even about UFOs at my university at that time. There was nothing out there. I happened to run into a gal that I worked with in the break room who was reading Bud Hopkins' book, Intruders. And so I happened to notice the cover of that book while she was in the break room reading it. And that's when I made the connection. And that's when I realized, there's something going on here. Because I asked her, I said, what are you reading? And then she started to explain to me about people who are abducted and having these experiences with ETs. And I noticed the being on the book looked very much like the one who had been visiting me. So I told her that was happening to me too. And it had also been happening to her, which is what drew her to read that book. So, it was almost like...
Thank God for Bud Hopkins. Yeah, Bud Hopkins' site was my lifesaver too. I was having strange experiences, and there he was explaining these things that had been happening, and it was shocking because when you have, like, I had a thing where I thought I had been stung by a bee, but it was when I got my implant, and it was behind the right ear. And a lot of people, to this day, they go, where's, they know they have implants. Where is it? That's behind the right ear. And mine was so bad that my mother took me to the doctor. So they get these markings, and they don't make sense on one level. Yet when you start correlating with other experiencers, you go, oh my God, this is real. Something's happening, and what can we do about it? So when you realized it was real, what did you decide to do about it? What decisions did you make for your life?
Yeah, it was almost like more difficult once I knew it was real to deal with that. And it wasn't that I felt like they were bad or anything like that. I knew they weren't. And I knew that there was something very exciting that I was part of. I felt that the whole time. But there was such a disconnect in the emotional connection that you have with grays. They don't have that emotional intelligence like humans have. So it's very hard to connect. They would try to measure how I was doing, with scientific methodologies. Like they would check my pulse and blood pressure to see when I was calm enough to bring me back and things like that. So it was just a very different kind of interaction than what we're used to. And it took me a while to really come to terms with that. But what I did was I did find a therapist that I could talk to about this. And it was hard. There weren't any like ufologist therapists and things like we have today. But she was a nurse practitioner, and she had an open mind, thank goodness. So she said that she was, willing to look into this more. So she started doing her own research about other people that were going through this, and she diagnosed me with severe PTSD, similar to somebody who had been in a war. And she kept wondering, before I told her what was happening, she said, were you in the military? Were you in a war? Why, because I had such severe symptoms. And that's when I decided I need to just tell her what's causing all my panic problems. But yeah, that went on. I saw her for probably about 8 or 10 years.
Wow.
How long? Yeah, because the grays were in my life. It went on for about 15 years. And, again.
Are they still in your life, or you're saying they were in your life? Are they gone?
Well, the hybrid program that I'm part of is I'm no longer needed for that. So they're not completely
Right.
gone. I have had a couple of visits, I would say, within the last couple years. I've had a couple things. So they're still connected to me. And the reason that they were so prominent in my life is because the hybrid program, I was not only helping them with the hybrid program with off-planet beings. So there were children that I was part of, that, I mean, I myself am a hybrid, but also my children, and the children off-planet are hybrids with them. So they do follow family lines, and I know that my father also had some experiences with them as well.
Okay, let's stop there for a moment and deconstruct that a little bit. So you're saying that you're a hybrid. How do you know that? And what are your characteristics and qualities that are different from a non-hybrid human being?
Yeah, well, I guess I just sort of put pieces together. I was told back when all this was happening early on in probably the mid 1990s, I was told by the Greys that they actually said to me that I am not a human, that I am a different species. And I did not understand what they were talking about back then. I disagreed with them. I said, of course I'm a human. What are you talking about? I'm a different species. And they showed me a picture of my cells. And they showed me, and I was not a biology student, and I'm still not scientific, but they showed me the nucleus, and then right next to the nucleus is this other dark spot that I guess is like the mitochondrial part of the cell or something, is what my husband says it was when I showed him the picture, because he does have a degree in biology. And so they showed me this, and they said my cells breathe differently. And what they meant by that was that I receive information differently, and that's what made me different. And it had to do with having different genetics that was also part of the family line, where they basically will abduct or take the pregnant woman and inject, different chromosomes and things into the DNA of the offspring, or they will manipulate our genetics at the time of our conception. And this has been going on with humanity, ever since our evolution. It's how we leaped in our evolution so quickly, why our cranium size became so large, and why we started walking upright, why all the fur was lost off our bodies so that we could hunt and put new fur back on. I mean, everything about our evolution doesn't match up to natural selection. So humanity's been manipulated genetically as hybrids throughout our history. It's just that what's happening is with these abductees like myself, is that we are some right now who they are focusing on and doing this experiment with right now. Not experiment, but they are hybridizing with those family lines right now to create another version of this hybrid race. So they're constantly altering us, and it's aiding in our evolution. And then
they explained their reason for the hybrid program?
Yeah, exactly. So what helped me really bridge that understanding was learning about Mary Rodwell's work and all the starseed kids that she's researched today. There's been like over 3,000 people that she has followed and opened up cases about, what's happened to them. And these children actually have memories of living off planet and having a life before they incarnated into this life. And they knew when they came here that they were hybrids. Some of them had a star language. They had incredible abilities and gifts that were like telepathy, telekinesis. They had an understanding of physics and the arts and sciences that went beyond, what they were learning in school. So she concluded that these children were hybrid children, and she called in her book, she called it the new human. And so with that occurrence happening with my son, where I knew he was a hybrid, and then what happened with me, it just, all the pieces started to fit together for me to realize that, that's who we are and why we're having those experiences.
Right. So are they attempting to create a new species for their purposes, for the preservation of humanity? What is the long-term goal? What do you think about that? some of the stories are that they're from the future. They came back to try to correct the course on, humanity before we went down some kind of extremely perilous road where we almost extincted ourselves. Some of the theories are, they no longer can reproduce, so this is how they reproduce, is by, combining their DNA with ours and creating a new species. Some have it more altruistic, that they want to help us because we're going to go extinct. So I just wondered what your information was, because I'm kind of collecting that. Everybody's theories. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they don't see us exclusively like a physical being. They understand the reincarnational aspects of the soul, and how they see it, and what they are facilitating in is our ability to continue to come back here and incarnate and grow. As long as we want to continue having physical experiences, we need to have the right vibrational match in a physical body to match our soul. And so that's why they're doing it, because as with each lifetime we have, we grow tremendously. We become more evolved each life that we've ever lived. If you remember your past lives, and I was fortunate enough to do that, actually through their help. They showed me my past lives that were completely validated, so I know they were real. And each life was better, and I learned so much more. And there were lives where I ended up killing people, and other lives where I was a slave, and didn't understand the laws of the universe and how interconnected we are. And so it takes lives to really figure that out. And so we can't keep incarnating back into a more primitive body type, like the Neanderthal type, or times when we were cavemen. We have to evolve physically in order to house the soul as it evolves. And so these hybrid kids, like with my son, he lived off planet with the Greys until he was 8 years old. And I had visits with him while they were visiting me. So I got to know his soul. I got to know who he was as a being. And then once he was done getting all the lessons he needed with the Greys, living with them as a hybrid child, he then incarnated and became my firstborn son in this life. And I completely recognized that boy as the same one that I was seeing when he was living off planet with them. So even though he lived to be 8 years old there, that was all the time he needed to get that information that he brought here. And today, he's phenomenal as far as what he's able to do, because he came here with so much more knowledge than what he would have had, if he didn't have that life initially with the Greys. So that's what it's about. It's about us growing and expanding, because if we don't, we're going to go extinct. We will. I mean, the planet's in trouble.
It seems like it's, I call it shit or get off the pot time, that if we don't change things, we're not going to be here as a species to incarnate on this planet. But it seems that this species, the human race, has been preserved and may be available on other planets. This might not be the only planet where this species is available for having an incarnation. But I wonder if what is their ultimate goal? Are they focused on certain characteristics? I'm going to put my husband on speaker with us because he can't get on. Come here, honey. Let's share this we got on the show. This is Kendra Jonas.
Oh.
Sweetheart, say hi to Kendra. You're live on the air.
Aloha, Kendra.
Hello, Dr. Lesson. How are you?
Oh, okay. A little doing. Oh, look, my computer's coming on.
You talk to Kendra, and I don't know. Here.
I don't know what's been said so far. I have no idea,
ask
Janet.
Questions. We're talking about the hybrid program. I'm going to work on your computer.
Okay, whatever.
Go in the other room while I fix your computer. Okay.
Kendra, I don't know what you and Janet have been discussing, but why don't you just wrap and I'll listen and maybe ask questions.
Sure. Well, we were talking about the hybrid program with the Greys, and she wanted to know, I think her last question was, what's their ultimate reason for mixing our genetics with theirs? And, because we were saying that if we don't evolve, if we don't start raising our consciousness, we are going to go extinct. We aren't going to get smart enough to change our ways. If we just keep following programs, if we just keep on doing what the boss tells us to do because we need a paycheck. I mean, obviously that's not getting us to the right point. If we, continue to just kind of mimic what other people are doing in the masses, it's not leading us to where we need to be. So what's happening is these new children that are coming here that are the result of this hybrid program that are incarnating right now are very much being people that can't be programmed. They don't fit in the same way with the school system, and the schools and teachers are having a hard time knowing how to teach them, which, they're ending up with diagnoses like ADHD and Asperger's and things, and they're medicating these kids rather than really listening to what information they came here with. And I've seen this with my own kids, and even when I was in school, I'm sure that I probably had ADHD too. But they say, it's really having attention in different dimensions. It's our ability to tap into a reality that's beyond just this flesh and blood physical, reality and doing things exactly the same way as the teacher's telling us to do. So I noticed one thing, that the people that are reporting having these experiences with the Greys and the hybrid, being part of the hybrid program, tend to be very creative people. They tend to be very gifted with their use of their right hemisphere of their brain. Most abductees I've noticed have been able to draw their experiences, and yet proportionally, when we look at the general population at large, not everybody can draw. And yet there's this visual acuity I noticed that a lot of these people have that can, relay their experiences. So I always thought that was interesting. And I always felt like that's one of the reasons that my genetics was selected, is because there's a very strong creative genes in my family. My father was very artistic, and his sister was, and I am. And it just seems to be something that the very left-brained or very logical, scientific-minded, gray types of beings seem to resonate with or want to create a hybridized race with.
Uh-huh. A lot of people that I've interviewed say that one of the main reasons for the hybridization is that the Greys tend to be more empathetic with their fellows and take others into consideration, and whereas a lot of us are way more closed off and egocentric and unable to empathize with others. And so that one of the positives of the hybridization program, unless you get stomped on for it, is increased empathy. That's what the other thing is. In terms of the history that I've been studying, one of the first planets that the Dracos really bombarded and forced the people to go underground for many millennia, and then they finally, some of them went out to space and they scattered all over, and some of them lost the ability to reproduce, and others didn't. But it seems that what Susie Hansen has pointed out is that there's been like waves of the special kinds of information and sensitivity that people get depending on where their creativity is in the first place, that's one of the main things that we're getting, is that it's for everybody's benefit, but different people have different skills, and these are what's coming out.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah, the Greys would do a lot of these experiments with me too, almost like psychological studies to see how empathetic I am in certain situations. So they would have me go into this dreamlike state, and where I would be attacked by a small child. They did this a couple of times with me, and I always knew it was them doing this with me, because you could just feel them watching and taking notes and really examining the whole thing. And they would have this small child, going after me with a knife or whatever drama they would create, to see at what point would I attack back, because it was a child after all. And how strong was my motherly nurturing instincts versus, self-preservation and protection. And they were very interested in that and what drives human emotion. And, at what point do we, surrender our fear and deal with things compassionately and lovingly and take that stance. So they were very interested in that. And they were also very interested about, the environment and the amount of pollution that was going into the air. And they would constantly measure that. And
what did you do when the kid came at you with a knife?
I'm trying to remember what I did. I know that I didn't I was given different options. Like, do you disarm the child? You can actually kill the child. They actually invited me to, kill the child if I needed to, that no one would know, and this kind of thing. And I believe I just, I know I didn't kill the child. I believe that I just, disarmed him and just dealt with it that way is all, but wasn't harsh in any way. It was just, but it was scary. I remember being scared and feeling threatened, but it wasn't to the point where I would kill somebody. And I've always felt that way. I feel like, I believe in karma and all of that. And I've never been somebody that's been revengeful and spiteful and that kind of thing anyway. So.
Yeah. About the ADAH, it's really should be that the children that are the ones that should be teaching the uptight teachers instead of the Dean Adele, who is known as America's doctor, is one of these ADH kids, and he said, "You know what it is? We can multitask. We're really the superior."
Yeah. Oh, I know. They're amazing, and that's why they have such high energy. Their brains are working faster. They're getting downloads and information and insights, and they just want to do all this stuff at once. And given the opportunity, it is amazing what these kids can do and what kinds of talents are coming through today. I just see a new intelligence coming through these kids that is beyond what we've ever seen before. Have you noticed that too?
Oh, I noticed, especially after the school shooting in Florida. When the children took to the streets and filled up with a much bigger crowd than Trump ever had in Washington, and they just handled it. It was just like we did when we were trying to stop the Vietnam War. What a turnout!
Oh, wow, that's so neat. That gave me goosebumps hearing what you just said. Yeah, that is amazing. And yeah, they're tapping into their heart center more. That emotional intelligence that. Being self-directed to know right from wrong, not so much doing what society is molding them to do, but really going within and knowing, this is who I am, this is what I need to do, and being different is okay. It used to be, that everybody felt scared to be different. They wanted to fit in. And now you see kids saying, screw it. I want to be different. It's okay to love and accept myself the way that I am. And you're seeing that a lot more now instead of that whole fitting into the mold kind of mentality.
Yeah, one of the biggest places where that it comes out is in the fight between Republicans and Democrats about the bathroom and what your identification is in UK, in England. You are whatever you say you are. You get to choose. In the United States, with this current administration, they're saying whatever is on the birth certificate, that's what you are, and you have to go in that bathroom. And bizarre.
Right. Yeah, isn't that the truth? It's really, the difference is just, standing up to old paradigms if they don't fit anymore, and which is stronger is the new paradigm and what we know based on our own wisdom and understanding of how the sacred time and the sacred universe works. Is that where our truth comes, or is it coming from these old, rules and laws and paradigms that have been taught to us and fed to us? And people are really waking up as far as if it resonates or not. And if it doesn't resonate, people aren't playing the game anymore. And we're seeing this with kids more than any other generation is, I would say, 25 and younger is where we're seeing the biggest change with that.
What's really different, and I'm really glad to see that the Florida thing is organization. As long as the institutions are running things individually by stopping to some effect. Is that our music coming? I
I'm here. I got online for you over here. Hi.
was that Janet? Hi, Janet.
Hi, Sasha. Hi, Kendra.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I finally got your computer to work.
What do you do when the institutions are all controlled, and if, basically not participating in the institutions or bring them down, but that's only if there's a sort of a massive and organized cessation of supporting deleterious institutions?
Yeah, you said, so what do you do, you said?
Yeah, organize. What happens with individuals? How do they organize to do anything effectively? Now, I saw that happen in the D.C. March, but how do you keep it going?
Yeah, well, thank goodness for social media and, texting, and people are connecting that way, and they're turning off the news and the mainstream media. That certainly isn't the tools that people are relying on anymore for connection. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, what are we talking about right now? I missed a little bit because I was
the hybrid, how wonderful they are, and what they can do to make the world better.
Yeah, I see it as a positive thing, and once I got through my own personal, issues, and understanding that I'm not a victim, and that I'm really a participant in this, and then it gets you to ask the questions of why is this happening and what's it all for, but there was a kind of the dark night of the soul at first. I mean, it was scary. The fight or flight reptilian brain kicks in, and every time that you're taken or visited, it seems scary at that time. So it really kind of opens you up, though, to being able to use these same tools in everyday life. When you're having a challenge and you're going through other things, personal things, financial troubles or whatever, or when a marriage breaks up or whatever it is, it makes you stronger when you have to deal with that reptilian response, the brain. I call it the reptilian brain, where the fight or flight, because when the ETs were visiting, I mean, they don't really sit and have a conversation and pull up a chair and give you a cup of tea and give you a hug, and it's not like that. This is
you wait for that. Come on, let's have a cup of tea.
Nice. Just so, but nobody would
want. What I found out after a while is they kind of do that. Once you get over your initial fight or flight, and it takes years sometimes. Whitley Strieber describes that in his books, how he eventually became comfortable. It's like they want us to show up and learn how to meet them. Mm-hmm. And then we're able to meet them as equals and on equal par. So now, and I don't know what I actually did to make this happen, probably just over time I got more and more relaxed, but now they do, invite me to come to different meetings, and I'm on these board meetings, council meetings. They're asking my opinion. They're taking my suggestions. I recently told them that I was on this planet and there was all these empty houses, and I said, well, we have all these homeless people in the the world here, the Earth world. Why don't we just relocate some people? They can, rehabilitate these poor houses that have beautiful architecture, but they've been abandoned because the population's died off. And so I went back several times, and these people were not slaves. They had all their needs met. They had food, water, shelter, clothing. They were given all the materials, and they're turning this abandoned city on another planet into this incredible, vibrant and alive, active culture. And it seemed that most of the people were predominantly like Indian or Pakistani or some kind of Asian culture, but there was still a mixture, a broad mixture. You had all the races, colors, creeds, and everybody was living in harmony. So so anyway, that was just one of my experiences, but I don't know if other people are getting invited to participate on a more interstellar basis. Have you heard any stories?
Yeah.
Or had any?
I can definitely relate, yes, to what you're saying. It really was about me having to do the inner work to get it past the fear before I could be taken to another level in communication. And it wasn't so much, where I'm conversing with the Greys now telepathically, but it's higher dimensional beings. I just call them spirit guides. I don't really know, planetarily where they're from. I have talked to a few Pleiadian beings, and those experiences are amazing. I mean, they're so enlightening, and you just feel incredible. So much so that when you come back, you really don't want to come back. It just felt so good when you're there. It's that kind of energy and vibration. And I feel like, when you're in a place of fear, or when you don't trust the process of what's happening and you're scared and you're in fight or flight, you can't match that level of vibration where those other beings are available. And by having those other experiences, it also opens you up telepathically. So by being engaged telepathically for as many years as I was, and having so many amazing, incredible things happen, it does shift your consciousness or your abilities a bit, so that when your spirit guide wants to talk to you, you can hear them and you can have conversation. And that then led to channeling and led to much more open dialogue than what I had 15 or 20 years ago when this all started. So I totally relate to what you're saying. And the council meetings is amazing. I have a friend who talks about that also, that she's invited to these meetings. And so tell me something, Janet. Is there a plan in place then to overthrow these negative beings that are still inhabiting this planet? Or what did they say about that?
Well, I've recently had some contact regarding that, and there's some shift happening probably before the end of the year. Might start as early as the 23rd, where before there was like non-interference, so we just had to play things out and tolerate some things, but we're able to, it's not like we're going to go into like killing or doing things harmful to other people, but we're able to say no to certain energies at this point now, and protect ourselves and shield ourselves, and that this process, it seems like it's totally mental, or we're imagining, we're making it up, but this process of banishing or shunning or rejecting the dark powers and negative forces will actually have a huge three-dimensional effect. And we're going to start seeing a shift when we're rejecting those policies where we don't respect consciousness, where we're allowing racism and sexism and prejudice and all these negative energies to come. That's going to go away, and all we have to do is reject it personally. And the personal is actually the global, is actually the galactic. It's going to operate on all levels. Saying it's like putting up boundaries. Mm-hmm. I no longer will go in that direction. I'm not even going to allow myself to go there mentally or spiritually or psychically. I'm going to correct my own course and go into love. I hear a lot of people saying, I'm dedicating myself to love and to responding to outside stimuli from other people in a loving fashion, rather than going into judgment and negativity. That's what I find happening, and I hope it's true, but that's what my communication is telling me, that we're shifting.
Well, one of the things that people are traumatized by isn't so much the aliens, but the paid professional killers that we call our military, that do terrible things, and they're incompassionate, and these are guys that get paid for killing people, and they're rough and they're mean. And so for a lot of people, they have a decent experience with the ETs, followed immediately by a terrible one with these brutal soldiers.
Well, I think they're listening. I'm getting the indication that these things that we're saying at our conferences and online on these shows, they're actually listening. They're paying attention. And, I think that they're going to start treating us more kindly when they take us for the military abductions. That's what I've been getting lately as well. It's like, we're sorry, we didn't realize, or, now we know better, now that you've expressed it. So I could be just crazy, but that's what I'm getting from my downloads. It's like, there's a move, we polarize the continuum to the furthest extent of negative and positive. Mm-hmm. And that's maxing. So now we're going to come back more to kindness, love, compassion, empathy, connection, walking in the other person's shoes, imagining what it's like to be them. I think that this extreme polarity in all that's happened with the shootings and the fires and the hurricanes and people dying of diseases, cancers, all these things that are curable, we've maxed the negative, and now we're about to turn around and go into a more kind and loving period of existence, and that's individually and collectively.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, that's the universal law of polarity. If you see that extreme darkness, there absolutely has to be the opposite of equal value that's right there. So there's an infinite solution, or amount of solutions to any problems is what I've found. So I'm totally with you there. I think that we are on the precipice of shifting, really shifting on a grand scale in the near future.
And it starts with self. So when you think you're powerless, like, how can I affect the whole world? You do affect the whole world. You affect everything. That's what we're learning, is that individuals affect the morphogenic field, and the morphogenic field goes back and affects all individuals. So if you correct your own course, before you know it, things are going to shift into such a kind and loving reality, and it just starts with self.
It does,
and it kind of ushers out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we have like 2 minutes. I want to give you the last 2 minutes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm actually working on a book similar to that. I had an experience with a crow, believe it or not, that was one of my greatest teachers, and it was all about the micro and the macrocosm, and how fixing and healing something in my family line had a dramatic effect on a macro scale. And my story is one, to see as an example of that we're all doing this every day. We just don't realize it. But then when we heal something within ourselves or our ancestral line, we are changing the world. It truly does have that, like you said, that rippling effect on the bigger scale. So, I'm got motivated after your conference to get that book done, that second book, because it's all about what we're talking about.
Excellent. Can't wait to see it. That's wonderful. And we're working on another conference, but we took a couple weeks off, and we're going to be back to work on that next week. So we've got DVDs and streaming we're going to put out there. We have, I think, about 80 DVDs that have been recorded. That's kind of obsessive. That's what I do. But we've got a lot of information that we're going to be getting out, and hopefully this will get distributed all over the world. And what we did at our gathering will affect the entire continuum. So your website is?
KendraJonas.com.
So be sure, listeners, to go to KendraJonas.com and buy her book, and get in line for the next one. When do you think that'll be out?
Well, I made a goal with Len, who was also at the conference. He's trying to finish his next book at the end of this year, and I said, well, I'm going to finish mine at the end of this year too. So we sort of made a commitment to each other that we're going to get it done soon. So. Yeah,
well, I have one too, and Dr. Lesson has another one. So let's get 4 books out before the end of 2018.
Yay!
I'll take as long as it takes. I'm going to do it right, even if it takes longer.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Kendra. We'll see you again soon. And be back here.
Janet. Thank you, Dr. Lesson.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And we'll be right back after this message.
In breaking news, a visiting Syrian diplomat reported today that their population is evolving rapidly and advancing into a fifth-dimensional consciousness. They are seeking peace with all cosmic cultures, which may mean that the Earth will be asked to join the prestigious Galactic Federation of Light Alliances. Please join Debbie West and Michael Hathaway on Lost Knowledge, Saturdays, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in Studio A, for the latest breaking news on the Star Visitors' peaceful contact and the ongoing project of cleansing the Earth.
Who are you? I am the architect. I created the Matrix. I've been waiting for you.
Why am I here?
You are the eventuality of an anomaly which, despite my sincerest efforts, I have been unable to eliminate from what is otherwise a harmony of mathematical precision, which has led you inexorably here.
You haven't answered my question.
The Matrix is older than you know. As you are undoubtedly gathering, the anomaly is systemic, creating fluctuations in even the most simplistic equation.
Choice. The problem is choice.
Right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. Be here Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time for Private Eye Matrix Revealed with Monique Lassonde.
Hello, my name is Mr. Rowe. I am the host of Reality Extraction, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I utilize logic, intellect, and magic to methodically autonomize, vivisect, analyze, examine, study, scrutinize, and extract an essence of reality from a fog of illusion and confusion. You can find me on Studio B every Thursday at 1700 hours Pacific Time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern. No topic taboo, no subject too strange. I strive to take a neutral standpoint during the dissection of the topic at hand. That's Reality Extraction with Mr. Rowe on Revolution Radio.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
Thanks for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we are listener-sponsored and commercial-free. But there still are bills to pay. In order to raise some needed funds to cover the cost, our station is offering a silver special. In the continental United States for a $60 donation, or in Alaska, Hawaii, or Canada for a $70 donation, we will send you an uncirculated 2018 1-ounce pure silver Eagle. The $70 donation, the extra 10 is to cover shipping, by the way, outside of the continental United States. When making the donation, you must put Silver Eagle promo in the notes on the donation. And thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at revolution.radio and freedomslips.com. Without you, there is no us. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Collision Courses back. Schedule B on Revolution Radio every Saturday night, 6 to 8 p.m. You get outer space. You get honest answers. real researchers, truthful answers, and a place to engage with questions. Take part in the discussion. Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com hosts Collision Course every Saturday from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Time.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Aloha and welcome back to Stargate to the Cosmos on Revolution Radio at revolution.radio. I'm your host, Janet Kerr Lisson, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Alex Lisson, our producer, Thomas Becker. We want to thank Kendra Jonas for the first hour. That was wonderful. We're coming up on the second hour with Dr. Louis Turi. But before we get back to our show, I'd like to remind everybody to please go over to that donation button on revolution.radio and make your donation this week. And we want to thank you very much for your donation. And Mad Painter, do you have our stats on how much we've earned thus far?
Yes, ma'am. We got 1,294, and we need 2,600. So we're not quite halfway, and we're not quite halfway through the month. So
that sounds good. We're right on track. So I want to tell you a little bit about our show today with Dr. Turi. This is part 2. We started on Sunday on the Sacred Matrix, and we're continuing here. So I got this little thing from Dr. Turi. Oh, today's the 13th. I think you had the 14th. You might want to correct that on your announcement. We're going to be talking about UFOs, explaining how the reptilius use the super-conscious forces to hijack the body, mind, and souls of their infected victims to hurt humanity. And Dr. Turi will make predictions for the entire U.S., Europe, and the world. So we have a really big show this last hour. And so that's a big topic. So who are these reptilians? How are they doing this? What are they doing?
Well, the reptilians are a representation of negativity, fear, chaos, disturbance, war, anything that is addictive, anything that is black, dark, and nasty to the human race. So those reptilians represented the forces of evil, and of course the more progressive extraterrestrial, the Draconis, are the gardeners of this world. They are representing the light, so to speak. And both of those entities, both of those extraterrestrial groups are cosmic conscious. For example, they know that right now the planet Mercury is retrograde. And when Mercury is retrograde, the people of the past come back, every moving part gets broken, and then in my case, my car, my wife's car, my cell phone, my stove, my glasses go broken, dysfunction. So be ready, because this is what those entities are using. They are using dark matter, those cosmic winds, to manipulate the body, mind, and soul of human beings, and make them behave erratically, and then turn them into criminal. And they also use those nasty cosmic winds to produce natural disaster. And the wind that you have in California that doesn't seem to stop, that is burning everything out there. So this is due to the planet Mercury being in retrograde. And of course, it brings the affairs and people of the past. For instance, President Trump went to France, and he had to deal with a bunch of people he didn't see for a long time. But Mercury affected the weather, so that was the excuse for him not to go to the cemetery while all the others leaders went there. So there is all sorts of things that are taking place that is affecting the president's psyche and everybody walking on planet Earth with this planet going retrograde currently. So I just wanted to mention that. And as far as the future is concerned, President Trump said enough. His stars are very strong. He behaves like the bull in the china shop. This is part of his UCI, or his celestial nature, so to speak. He's born that way. He's born with the tail of the dragon in the sign of Sagittarius. I have to repeat myself so your audience understand what I'm saying here, Janet. And that makes him extraordinarily unlucky with all the affairs involving foreign land and foreign places. So by ridiculing the French and the Ally for losing the First World War, what President Trump is doing is, through the influence of the reptilius, of course, who command his psyche because he's infected, is to make a lot of problem with our allies. And this means, of course, the entire European countries, including Russia and China, may become new ally to battle the United States, which they will perceive as untrustworthy enemies. So electing a president that has a very negative dragon tail, such as Hitler or President Trump, for that matter, is not helping the United States and is not helping the human race, because he has a position of power. And when you elect a president that has such a stars, we all, the people, have to suffer his fate. Do that make sense?
Right. Yeah, so, it seems bizarre. We were on a different path. When my generation, the baby boomers, came in after the war babies, we were motivated to take us to a planet of peace, and we were heading down a different timeline, so to speak. And suddenly it feels to me, it feels to me actually that our timeline has been hijacked and we're in some kind of alternative reality. And, I listen to people like David Icke. I try to explain this in some logical fashion. I've learned about the reptilians and the archons and all these dark energies that seem to affect our 3D consciousness and reality. And I'm just left with, what can we do? Are we doomed to do another world war like my poor parents? They were so traumatized after the World War II. My dad had PTSD. We've been in this constant state. Is there no resolution, no light at the end of the tunnel?
Yes, there is. But in order for that light to come forward, humanity has to gain cosmic consciousness. Instead of teaching and indoctrinating people with 875 different religions, or building atheists to only trust and follow science, the old art and science, or mother of all science, which is astrology, that was used by all disappeared civilization, should be reinstated in our college university and used as a very solid discipline. And then once you understand your position within the universal code, so to speak, then you can apply the will, which is stronger than the reptilius and which is stronger than the stars. But at that point, the humans do not know about the reptilius being the negative force, the falling angel, the devil or evil. They see this as something they cannot fight. The only way to fight the evil is with the light. The problem is that people, in order for evil to survive and to win the battle, is for good people to do nothing. And that's where the problem is. I'm trying so hard to make people aware how important it is for them to be positive, because each time you fear, each time you're negative, each time you're insecure, you are now becoming a target to the reptilians, who are going to feed on that negative energy and produce more chaos. So how can you fight the reptilians? First, by becoming aware of the reality of those nefarious entities. Secondly, by allying with the draconis. The draconis are the ones that help an artist to create a new song, or a painter to create a beautiful piece of art, or the Draconis are the ones that will gather together to help other people who have suffered into a natural disaster and help to rebuild. So these are the light, but humanity is not aware of those two very powerful forces, because it all starts with religion and sudden enough end up with science, and they forget what's in between. As far as I'm concerned, extraterrestrials are very, very real. There is no question in my mind, because I've been literally growing up with extraterrestrial, and then what they did to my psyche once I end up in a flying saucer with my wife, due to downloading all the cosmic code jurisdiction, the cosmic code rules, and leading me to rebuild Nostradamus' divine astrology methodology, it's absolutely incredible. And then, you know what? The only difference between me and other psychics is that I'm not afraid to give you dates. For example, I'm expecting a bowel earthquake within the next couple days. So, you know, the next couple days not very far. Earthquake above 6.0, a sudden release of energy, an explosion, or maybe a volcano. I know the reptilius are going to use the energy of the 14th of November 14th, which is tomorrow. And for the next 48 hours, the reptilians are going to use that sudden release of energy to create a big earthquake or volcano eruption, or shock the world somewhere, somehow. And then I'm going to go all the way to the 26th of November. That's where I see thousands of people being forced to relocate, because, again, the reptilians will destroy many homes and many families. Why have I got to be so negative? Because people tend to hear me when I am negative, because I'm using the negative flux. And all these people are going to suffer my predictions, because not only the reptilians are stimulating and using those nasty, deadly cosmic winds, but because people do not know how to fight. They just sit back, relax, and let their fear paralyze them instead of sending positive thought. I mean, if you take a magnet right now, it's going to point to north. North meaning negative, north meaning the reptilians are winning over humanity. We only have maybe 10 to 15 years, Janet, maximum to turn around.
Right,
And then when you have, for example, all these programs selling that people are going to one day go to Mars, for example, that is totally insane. I am very futuristic myself. I'm an Aquarius, Pisces Aquarius, so I'm into the future, but I also have a solid critical thinking. I know what NASA and all the scientific matrix is doing, like the religious matrix, which have been fighting each other to death forever. They want your money. They want to entertain you. They want to survive. They want to pay their bills, send their kids to college, and pay insurances. So they are selling that we are going to go to Mars, because this way they have your financial support.
Well, let me back up to a couple things, and I want to go back to Mars, because that's a very important topic. And I think we lost Dr. Lesson, because I think my internet.
No, you didn't lose.
Oh, you're still there.
Good.
So I want to ask Dr. Turi a couple things, and then I'll pass the talking stick to you, Sash. But you mentioned that you were, let's go back to your life as a contactee with extraterrestrials. When was the first time you were aware that you were interacting with extraterrestrials? I'm a lifelong contactee experiencer, by the way.
No. Well,
so what happened to you?
I was 7 years old. 7 years old, and I was punished. I was in the attic, away from my brothers and sisters, and that's the first time I saw the gray.
What happened?
I was screaming my head off, and everybody thought in the neighborhood that I was going crazy. Because in 1956, 57, we didn't have any TV, we didn't have any bathroom, we didn't have any current water, we didn't have a radio. Nobody was there to tell me that I was dealing with extraterrestrials. And then the good news is that each time I woke up the next day totally terrified and asking my mother a question about it, she couldn't answer me. But the good news is, again, I always woke up and I knew they were not hurting me. They were doing something, but I don't know. I was only 6 or 7 years old. So my first experience was pretty dramatic. My second experience is when I was taking my sister through the French Alps to her work. Cut the story short, it's 4:30 in the morning. I don't know where I am. I'm totally falling asleep, and I don't want to kill my sister and I. So I was desperate to find a little place and have a cup of coffee and ask for direction, because we didn't have cell phone. I didn't know how to read a map. Basically, I was taking her there by asking people direction or wherever, a few miles. I was 19 years old, so I was born in 1950, so easy to count. So 79. So we arrive at this restaurant in the middle of the night. I mean, you have to remember, this is the south of France. There is no McDonald's or places that are open 24 hours, especially 40 years ago.
Right.
So anyway, I stopped my car there. There was nobody. I asked my sister to sit by the door and wait for me, and I went to the bar, and next to me there were 3 guys. It's so big, I thought they were loggers, cutting trees. My nose was at their belts to tell you how big those guys were. And I thought, my God, I hope they have good intention. So I asked the barman to give me a cup of coffee and Coca-Cola for my sister. And then one of the guys looked at me, and he says, do you want to play cards? I look at him and I said, you know what? I'm tired, my friend. I don't want to play cards. I'm here to have a cup of coffee because I'm falling asleep, and then ask for direction. He says, no. Pick a card. You're going to be friends with cards. I said, what you mean? He was right. To this day, I don't even know how to play poker, but I play tarot cards, and each hand is a winner. So what I'm trying to say is, he asked me a few times to pick up a card, and each time my eye were looking at this card, he was telling me what it was. So I challenged him in my mind. I thought, instead of, I was looking at the 9 of diamond, and I'm going to change into the Queen of Spades. This is what I thought, but I never told him. Then he looked at me and he says, Louis, and I never ever said my name to this guy. He says, you're not going to change the Queen of Spades for the 9 of diamond. I said, oh my gosh, I could barely hold on to myself. I was holding to the bar. I asked the barman where the bathroom was. It was like 5 feet away. So I didn't even close the door. I put some really cold water in my face, and I felt like I was chained to this guy with my head. And I was talking to him in my head. I said, what the hell? Who you? What are you doing to me? I felt so invaded. I said, I'm going to get out of here, and you better tell me what the hell's going on. By the time I came back, it was like maybe, I don't know, not even a minute. They were gone. So I asked the barman, where are they? I said, they just left. I said, oh my gosh. So I went outside, and I looked left and right, and I listened. Nothing. And I asked the guy again, who are those guys? He said, well, they must have come in with a car because, we're in the middle of nowhere. I said, there was no car.
Right.
The next thing I know, I wake my sister up, and I said, let's get out of here. I don't even know if I pay for my coffee. We go out, and what I remember is the next day, driving back home with a headache that I would never wish for my worst enemy. And that headache lasts for about 3 straight weeks. Where have I been all night? My sister doesn't remember nothing because she slept all the way through. She only remembered when we arrived at the restaurant when we talked about it. So that was something absolutely incredible, where I felt very invaded, where I felt that I was dealing with the men in black. Who are they? what do they wanted with me? I don't know. They probably set up the entire scenery of the middle of a mountain to have that restaurant open at 4 o'clock in the morning. There was snow everywhere. So I never really had a closure with that. I still do not know what those guys did to me and what they wanted. That brings me to the third one. When I was with my brother, it was on November 11. I start to pick up the date now and make notes of the date in case something like this happened to me. And I said to we were driving through the vineyard going from his farm. He used to live in a farm during those days. And then we were driving through the vineyard to the main road, and then to the main road to the highway, and then from there to his discotheque. You know, he's Mr. Powerful, Mr. Mafioso, you know, hotels, restaurants, ski station, discotheque, very wealthy, very powerful, Scorpio brother of mine. Anyway, and he doesn't talk too much. So we were driving through the vineyard with a brand new Mercedes, absolutely brand new, reliable machine. I know I have one of those. I'm driving a Mercedes. They're very reliable. Next thing I know, I said to my brother, I see something on the right over there, Joe. Is there people in the vineyard now? He says, Louis, November 11 to be precise. He goes, there's no grapes. Grapes were picked in September. In other words, you know, shut up. Yeah. The next thing I know, oh my gosh. First of all, the Mercedes in the middle of the little road died. And him and I, we had our nose stick against the windshield, and we were looking up, and it was not a helicopter, because a helicopter makes like a flop, 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 flop noise. I know because, again, I fly helicopters. I took some course in flying in California, so I know I can discern what a helicopter noise is with the blades. So I said to my brother, I'm going to go outside and look at it. He grabbed me by the arm and said, are you crazy? So the big mafioso guy who was, you know, literally shitting his pants, excuse my French.
Yes.
So I went outside and I look up, and I couldn't see nothing but bright lights. And then that's where I knew those things are very intelligent. They turned the lights off, but I didn't know what it was. So it took me a while for my eyes to adapt to the darkness, and then here it was. About 30 to 35 feet above the brand new stolen Mercedes in the middle of the vineyard, there goes the huge flying saucer above the car. I was screaming every single bad French words I knew, banging the hood of my brother's car, asking him to go out and to look at it. Of course, he did not. And I was looking at these things above my head. Since then, it's unbelievable how someone can be touched by such a reality and then be 100% sure, without doubt, that this was a flying saucer and it is all very real. Literally, I know what was going to be next to me. So after a while, they turned the lights on again. The entire car, the entire area were under kind of a pinkish, brownish, goldish light. Then after a while, they turned the lights on again, and they flew off. That flying saucer was suspended above the car. That thing was making like a humming noise, and I was 30 feet under it, and I was not cooked. People say when you go into a flying saucer, you're going to get some microwave or things like that. I was perfectly fine. I was no burn or anything. So what was amazing is that flying saucers flew like maybe 10 feet above the chimney of a farm that was next door, and there was plenty power lines where that flying saucer is, you know, literally stuck above the car. It's amazing. Such a big metallic things can fly so easily and avoid every freaking obstacle that you might have. So that is, since that day I realized that something was different. I had to do something. I didn't know what it was. I went back to England. I got my certification from the Royal School of Music because I play piano. That's what I wanted to do, and I was a recording artist in those days. And then I decided to let go. I decided to let go of Europe. Something pushed me to come to the United States. And then that was November 11, 1981. And then in August 11, 1991, that's where the most incredible UFO experience took place. Yet it's nothing like the very last one, but it was pretty incredible. I was on my way to Los Angeles with my wife,
Mm-hmm.
And but the night before, she was going to go to a beauty pageant. I told her to get a baby sleep so that she might win the contest. And we were supposed to exit at Anaheim just before Anaheim, California, Disneyland. Just before Disneyland, in Catella exit, that was the exit we were supposed to take. But the night before, about 4 o'clock in the morning, my wife woke me up. She was crying, she was screaming, she was in a fetus position on the floor. She was, I don't know, I thought she was going crazy. I said, what's wrong with you? I'm going to call the 911. She said, I don't know, something is wrong. She made me look everywhere in the house, under the bed, in every cupboard, in the basement. I said, what's wrong with you? She said, I don't know. The next day at 7:30, when the clock rang, I said, there's no point of going anywhere. You look like hell. She says, no, let's go. We can always see Grandma because she lives in the area. And then we took off. I took off from Oceanside. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. I filled up my tank, and I was looking at my watch, and we took off. And as I was driving, I was carefully trying to go back into the night before and ask my wife what was going on with her, why she behaved that way. She didn't want to talk about it. And then she turned the radio on. Next thing I know, I felt like if I drove into a cloud, and I didn't feel the wheels on the road. And then I drove past a huge bridge. The next thing I know, my wife is asking me, honey, what's going on with you? You are 35 miles per hour. It's 55. And then I was in the middle of the highway on those speed bump that woke me up, so to speak. And I said, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? I said, where are we? She said, I don't know. I haven't seen LA just yet. We're going to be late, so you better hurry. So anyway, I kept driving, but I did not recognize my environment. So I decided to take the first exit, and then I exit, and then I saw 4 Mexican guys on the back of a white Toyota truck. They were having kind of a breakfast. So I stopped the car, and I went straight to them, and I said, excuse me, could you tell me where I am, please? They look at each other like, these guys smoke too much pot or something like that. They told me you are at the zoo after Los Angeles at the zoo exit. I said, excuse me? Yeah, they told me. And I said, and what time is it? They said to me, it's 9 o'clock, sharp. Oh my gosh. So I went back to the car. I said to my wife, do you remember when I married you, I told you I was dealing with extraterrestrial and this and that? She said, yeah. I said, it's 9 o'clock in the morning and we are after Los Angeles. And she goes, next time we go through LA and I don't see it, let me know, okay? Come on. She could not believe it. And she started to open the glove compartment and looking at the United States map to see where she was, to tell you how frustrated and how lost we were. It took me over an hour and a half to go back to Catella. So in other words, I was about 90 miles north, out against my will. And the only way for me to do that, I would have to do this, providing there is no traffic in Los Angeles. I'm driving a brand new Ferrari at 200 miles per hour, and there is no police to stop me. That would be the only way for me to do that. Luckily for me, that they did not drop me west into the ocean. They dropped us north, 90 miles that I did not drive. Next thing I know, during those days, that was in 1991, something like that, I spoke to my situation. In fact, we came back to the hotel where the pageant was taking place. And my wife didn't want to go back home. She said, I don't want to go back to this house. She called a friend, and the friend took her to Phoenix, Arizona, and I didn't see my wife for a while. She was so scared. Next thing you know, I talk about my situation to a UFO researcher, and he says, okay, I know two top hypnotherapists in Victorville, and then we set an appointment, and they had the television, they had the recording equipment, and they framed the first frame, and then they compared the first frame to the very last frame an hour and a half or 2 hours later, and you can see me being totally wet, and not even my shirt has moved, to tell you how deep I was by those two guys. And everything is on tape, and I still have the tape. So what happened is, I was driving on the highway. I was sucked into the belly of a flying saucer. My wife and I, those three guys that I saw years earlier, the blondes, the Nordics, so to speak, the management, they came and opened my door, and they led me inside of the flying saucer to another door. And I said to my wife, "Don't you worry, been there, done that, it's all good, you're safe, don't worry." It's like if I had an agreement for this to happen. Then
right.
I went inside on the little room, and I could look outside through a window, and I saw the earth the size of a football. So my gosh, I was pretty far to look in the earth that far away from that window. Then the door opened, but it was like a decontamination. This is where I complain, and you could see me literally sweating buckets on TV. I'm literally, water is pouring out of me, like if somebody is just dropping water on my face. So I'm kind of going through a form of decontamination before entering the flying saucer. Then I get inside and I see all the Greys, the dignified robot. They were playing with, working with all the electronics and flying the saucer, whatever they were doing. And then I went to a big screen, and that's where I saw my wife. She was laying down on a table, a glass table, and they were doing some surgery on her. They were taking the fetus because she was pregnant. They took the baby. And then incidentally, after that, just above the airline, she had like a 2.5 inches scar, but it was like a cat with a laser just above the airline. And believe me, that wasn't there before. So that was a solid proof that they took the baby. So when I was watching this, I was not upset. And then I went to another room. Then I sat, and then something came from the ceiling, like a helmet, stopped up on my nose. And then I felt like electricity. I felt like steel. I felt like imploding. And then after that, this is where I woke up at 35 miles per hour in the middle of the highway after Los Angeles, at the zoo exit.
Right.
So that's
wow.
And after that, I went back to my home by myself because my wife was not with me, and I couldn't help myself. I drew all sorts of symbols of astrology, and I could not stop studying Nostradamus' work. And I was led to become a prophet, to do prediction and to do reading and to do healing. That was just absolutely incredible. And then came the...
Was it your baby, Louis? Was it your baby?
What was that?
The baby they took.
Yeah.
Your child.
Yeah, it was my child. It wasn't the fetus. And then my wife didn't divorce me after that. She didn't want to stay with me. I understand. So she just dropped me. But
did they ever show you that child again? Sometimes they come full circle and they let you see the child. Okay.
I have no idea, but I was not upset. It's like I had a pact. I was okay. I was not upset at all. I can't explain my feelings. It's like, okay, well, I agree with that. That I can't explain it. No. So, but one of the most important connection that I have with extraterrestrial is with an entity called Draco, and that was during a solar eclipse. And if you go to drturi.com and you scroll down, you will see orbs. My wife my new wife took like 4 or 5 pictures, and I said, "What are you doing?" She was going click, 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 click. She never behaved that way. She always takes pictures one at a time. She couldn't help herself. She just started to shoot a bunch of pictures. She goes, "I don't know." And the next thing when we developed those pictures, oh my God, you can see those orbs coming straight to me. getting closer and closer, then entering my third eye, and then exiting from my heart. And you want to see those. You could see those pictures on drturi.com. If you scroll down, you will see
I'm
it.
going to pull that up and look at those. Yeah.
And since that day, I have been channeling this benevolent extraterrestrial called Draco, and he literally works with me by loading me with information. And sad enough, I had a page on Facebook with over 10,000 people, and then one day I tried to go back in there, and I could not post anymore on my own page. So the reptilians are doing all that they can to make sure I do not divulge anything about their agenda. The good news is that I am protected, and even Draco, the positive extraterrestrial, taught me how to produce talisman and ingesting those talisman with specific protective cosmic wings. Those talisman can be used for health, to connect with extraterrestrial, to increase your magnetism, can be generated to attract wealth. It is different variation of those talisman. Again, it's all on my website where I explain all that. But ultimately, it is Draco which is pushing me to tell you the next couple of days you're going to have a big, sudden release of energy, a bad earthquake, or a sudden release of energy could be an earthquake above 6.0 that could lead into a tsunami, or maybe a volcano. Something very unusual is going to take place within the next 48 hours. That's what Draco is telling me. And he's also telling me to give you the date that I gave you earlier, the 26th, where thousands of people will be forced to relocate because another natural disaster. So he's pointing out things like this in my mind, and then I write it down and I pass it on radio. I did the same when I was on George Noory in Coast to Coast 1 week before Katrina. And, I did the same with pretty much all natural disaster, and that's why the FBI came and visit me twice, because I told them the exact date to when terrorist activity was going to take place. So 4 FBI agents visit me. So I have decided to be a little bit more careful now.
What about the, so this thing that's happening tomorrow, do you have any idea what part of the world this is going to be in? Is it the United States or something unrelated?
I taught NASA students who is who in America, doctors from all walks of life, and NASA, they're taking your money. They're taking your money, but they do not want to work with me because they would rather be cut dead than to work with an astrologer. I mean, you can see it's a battle. They do not want. They want to ignore and ridicule astrology. So NASA, I send a certified mail, and then you have it on my website. If you click on prediction and earthquake, I send certified mail to the Seismologist Institute in Pasadena, to NASA, to the scientific community, giving very specific date for earthquake above 7.0. It was October the 6th and October the 9th. And then I have those emails, and you can read them. And then it's so well documented. And it happened on the exact day that I gave them. But they will not dig into cosmic consciousness. They will not try astroforensics. They like the FBI. They are afraid of being ridiculed or going to hell. And the result is that Dr. Turi knows what he's talking about. I've been gifted. I've been touched by the divine. Yet people are afraid. They think I'm a lunatic. I'm an egocentric. When all that I do is most of the time free, because I'm trying to help to save people's lives. So NASA, the USGS and NASA will never tell you where an earthquake will take place.
Mm-hmm.
Me, I don't tell you where, but I tell you exactly when. And it's much more accurate and much more information that the scientific community is able or willing to give you. Now, all you got to do is to wait a couple of years, and I will send you the results. I'll have your email address, and I will tell you, do you remember? In fact, when I did my TV show with William Shatner, he says, Dr. Turi, I'm not going to put you on national TV unless your predictions are confirmed. I said, okay, so how do you want to do that? He says, well, I want you to send me 5 predictions in a sealed envelope to Canada. And then I'm going to send the TV crew in your house on the date of the taping. They will open that letter, and with them you will check CNN. And if those predictions that you mentioned are taking place on the day that you said they would, in details, then the taping will take place. And I did. And all my predictions came to pass, and those guys was blown away, and then William Shatner gave the go to do the TV show.
Excellent. That's great.
So, you know, there's this big difference between imagination and divine information. You know, there's a lot of gifted people out there, believe me, a lot of them that have all sorts of gifts, healing, psychic abilities. Sad enough, the religious and the scientific community control all the media, and they control all the information because they have tons of money. And then you have cults like Scientology, the Mormon, or Witness of Jehovah. Again, they are extraordinarily wealthy, but they've got nothing for humanity that is tangible, that can help their children to regenerate and to reinstate themselves in harmony with the cosmic code and God's universal laws. So, you know, we all have been made in the image of God. And then a lot of you listeners, that like it or not, they are gods in training on this dense physical world. That's why the future is the reincarnation of the thought. You know, I could simply ask you, just tell me, what was New York 300 years ago? What was France 1,000 years ago? What was the television or the computer you are using now, or the car you're driving? What was this 200 years ago? Nothing. But it came to be a reality because the creative thought process and the gift that God has given us as children of God to create our reality. And that makes us very responsible in producing that positive thinking process at all times to beat the forces of evil, the reptilius or the devil or the fallen angel or whatever Christians call Satan. Do that make sense?
Yes, you do. And we have about 15 minutes left, so I want to bring us back to track. So we were talking about are the leaders of the planet infected by, you know, it was one of the theories that Toth Nagashita had, and also David Icke, that these reptilian forces or draconian forces or whatever, archonic, take over the leaders of the planet, and they're infected. Is that what you mean? Go ahead.
The only difference between David Icke and I, as far as the reptilians are concerned, is that David is, I know him very well. David is like putting only the people who have names and power, like President and the Queen of England, transforming into lizards. And this is not that at all. Everybody, including you and I, are infected to a certain degree. If you take legal or illegal drugs, if you smoke pot, if you drink too much, if you are a religious fanatic and you generate fears, you are infected. So when you look at it, the infestation is progressive. If somebody starts to take too much drugs, starts by smoking pot, then he wants a bigger kick, a bigger fix, and they end up taking cocaine, for example. Now, the reptilians have led that soul to meet the people who, like him, vibrate at a very low level, a negative level, that provided the drugs and the opening for the person to degenerate so the reptilians can suck his fears, his energy, and become stronger and fulfill their own agenda. So when you look at it, the reptilians are not interested only with those who have names and power, kings and queens, like David said. He got it completely wrong. In fact, David himself is really infected because much of his speaking, much of his talks generate a lot of fear. And I'm trying myself not to be on the negative side. But as I said earlier, unless I tell you something negative, if I tell you you're going to have a break hitting your head tomorrow, you're going to remember. Sad enough, there is a light, there is positive, there is the future, there is hopes, there is dreams, there is creativity, there is the draconis working with us. And if they were not there to build what is being destroyed every second of our life, we would have lost this battle against the reptilius a long time ago. This is not something that just happened. The reptilians have been battling to own this very precious piece of real estate, which we call the Earth, since forever. And they are battling. There is a battle going on in the heavens between those two forces, the white and dark, the good, the bad, evil and Satan, so to speak. And then every single human is, to a certain level, infected. As soon as you get upset, as soon as you get depressed, as soon as you get insecure, you are now giving food to the reptilians. And those who have money and power are much more positive than we are, mostly because they don't have to worry about their basic security, their rent, or their food. But they are easily infected because the intense demand that is put on top of them to be in Australia tomorrow, in Paris the next day, and in Japan the day after that. So they have signed a contract with other reptilians, greedy people that own their lives. And the only way for them to sleep when it's time for them to sleep is to take pills that help them to sleep. And the next thing you know, they have to take other pills to be on stage. And there goes all the famous people that we have lost, including Michael Jackson, Prince, and all those big famous guys that keep dying like there is no tomorrow.
Right.
So, do I make sense again?
Yeah, you do. And we are running out of time. I wanted to give you time to give us some predictions for the entire U.S. and Europe and the world.
Well, basically, the tail of the dragon had just moved into the sign of Capricorn, and this means every large corporation, all the people who have names and power, people who are in the government. I mean, it's already happening because the dragon has been void of course for a few months now. You can see with the situation, the political situation right now. That is Capricorn, the head of the devil, is in charge of this world. And Hitler was born with the tail of the dragon in Capricorn, which is the goat, or the symbol chosen by Christianity to represent the devil. So all the children that will be born for the next, say, 18 months will be rational, logical, born atheists, driven to become politicians, engineers, structuring power of Capricorn will work endlessly in their souls. These will have the tail of the dragon in Capricorn, and these produce somebody like Hitler who has misused the power and has misused the political front, exactly like Mr. Trump is doing, because Mr. Trump was in his past life an SS soldier working and obeying Hitler. It is very obvious when you look at this chart that he has a very strong, not only physical past life in Germany because of his leniency, his legacy, his DNA, but also from his previous past life. He has a fear and a disdain of anything that is not white. And the people that vibrate at its speed, who have fear of foreigners, fear of invasion, will sign up for his political aims, so to speak. So it bypassed the logic, what I'm talking about. This is why it's so very important that some of your listeners understand that somebody who reads somebody who is curious will understand the situation we are in right now. So just Google Donald Trump for president and add Dr. Turing. Google that, and then you can read his idiosyncrasy. You can read his dragon, his moon sign, where he came from. And you can read that 2 or 3 years ago, I saw everything coming when I talk about the face of Hitler cursing the world for the next years to come, and talking about God will not be there to stop the fires. Everything that's transpiring today was predicted about 3 or 4 years ago. And again, the publishing process, the well-documented and dated publishing material make my prediction unarguable. But again, it is not an ego trip that I want to pass on. I just want to help people to understand how important it is to open up to God's cosmic divinity, because religion, as we know them today, are going to go. Nothing is meant to last. There's nothing. The future is the reincarnation of the thought, but life is a constant and endless process of changes. And those changes is what we need, because we only have 100 years, if we are lucky, to learn on hell. You're not going to go to hell. This is it. This is here. This is a school. So don't be afraid of ending up in flame forever, because you already are on hell in this dense physical world, in your own fear and being victimized and cursed by the reptilius and not being able to fight them because you don't want to know about it, because you're already afraid about it. And that's the worst thing that can happen to us all.
How will the religions change?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
Religions. How will religion? You said religions will change.
Religion will be becoming a thing of the past.
Thing of the past.
The only reason why I'm Christian is because I was born in France. But if I was born in the Middle East or in India, I would have a different religion. So you already geographically imposed a religion. Do I make sense again?
Yes, I understand. That's the God spell, yes.
Yeah, so God is universal. It's like astrology. You know, you can be a Muslim, a Christian, a Buddhist. You have a sun sign. You have a moon sign. You have a natal or a hidden dragon that dictates your fate. You have a Saturn location that dictates your karma and your fears. You have a Venus position that dictates the type of love you are able to give or receive. You have a Mercury position that describes your critical thinking and your aptitude for communication or writing. You have a Uranus position that depicts the weirdest things that will happen to you in life. If you have a strong Uranus, believe me, you're going to be a magnet for extraterrestrials, and you're not going to be, I don't have to convince you to take my course in astropsychology, because you're naturally meant to do that. People don't become doctors, attorneys, or scientists or religious fanatics just because. No, you are related to your family genetically only. You may look like your mom and your dad, and so are your kids. 150% related to them. But in the world of the spirit, they are all strangers to you. You will never think, behave, talk, who have the same faith as your mother, your sister, your dad, or your kids. And that's what God is all about, allowing you and cursing all of us to seek the answers He has enslaved everyone to look for, again, outside of conventional religion and science. And that's what I'm all about.
1 minute left before we go. 1 minute left before we go up there. I'll tell everybody how to reach you, your website, and we'll have you back again.
Yeah, well, basically, Dr. Turi, DRTURI.com is a big website. You can watch my TV show, listen to my radio show. Please make a note of what I said. In the next 48 hours, there is a sudden release of energy which is going to shock the world. Be ready. It could be an explosion, an earthquake, a tornado, I don't know. Just be prepared. And I give you another date towards the end of the month, where thousands of people will be forced to relocate because of natural disaster, and that will be on November 26th. I'm giving you the solid proof that I speak to God, and you can speak to God too, but God doesn't speak to fools. That's what it comes down to it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Turi. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Sasha. Much love and blessings, and aloha.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. And we'll be right back after this message. Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Any commercial advertising you may hear in this program is of the sole discretion and benefit of the host of whose program you are listening to. Revolution Radio does not endorse any commercial products, nor does it accept monetary compensation for on-air advertising of commercial products, nor will it ever. We are and shall remain 100% listener supported. Any product advertising on this program are considered used at higher risk, and Revolution Radio shall not be held liable for any claims or damages received from any product advertised within this program. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Thanks for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we are listener-sponsored and commercial-free, but there still are bills to pay. In order to raise some needed funds to cover the cost, our station is offering a silver special. In the continental United States for a $60 donation, or in Alaska, Hawaii, or Canada for a $70 donation, we will send you an uncirculated 2018 1-ounce pure silver Eagle. The $70 donation, the extra 10 is to cover shipping, by the way, outside of the continental United States. When making the donation, you must put Silver Eagle promo in the notes on the donation. And thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at revolution.radio and freedomslips.com. Without you, there is no us. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Have you heard? Metro by T-Mobile now includes Amazon Prime. Yes, enjoy the best of shopping and entertainment, movies, TV shows, music, free shipping, and much more. All included for just $40 per line for 3 lines. All on the T-Mobile network. Discover the smarter way. Metro by T-Mobile. That's genius. One offer per account. Offer subject to change. $12.99 per month value. Offer valid for new Amazon Prime members. Metro customers may notice reduced speeds versus some T-Mobile customers. Video at 480p. Capable device required. See store for details and terms and conditions.